Franco Lombardo there from Veritage. There's some challenges for founders, isn't it? Are you emotionally ready for succession and transfer of wealth? And are you open to advice? Well, keeping the business in the family is a goal for many of you out there, but how do you do it? And what about family members who don't want to be in the business? Let's welcome Tristan Bowman of Cameron Harrison to help us sort all of this out. It's a big issue for a lot of founders and business owners. How do you start the process of preparing the business for sale or succession?
Yeah, so the old adage, failing to plan is planning to fail, is certainly true when it comes to business owners and their succession plans, whether you're preparing the business for sale or you're preparing the business to transfer control and management to the next generation. The key is planning and planning for that change. So it may well be a two-step process. So you may well have a business plan that focuses on the strengths and weaknesses in the business,
Yep.
Working a few things out, fine-tuning the business so that it is set up for that next generation to take control. Then you may well have a subsequent business plan where you're looking at the pathways to exit. So transfer of management control to the next generation, merger, buyout, selling a part of the business. And you've really got to look at it dispassionately. So
right.
Business owners have got to get out of working in the business and working on the business. And you've got to take the time to do that, because if you don't spend the time thinking about that, you may well be looking at an exit point which has been forced upon you by
Yep.
illness, poor financial performance, other financial issues you might be having.
What are some of the big mistakes you see people making?
Well, I think one of the big mistakes is not having the IP, the intellectual property and the business know-how written down on a piece of paper, or right. At least having the next generation educated about that. So a founder-controlled business is successful because of the founder, and sometimes it can really, all that information, that knowledge just sits in their head. So take the time, document all the policies and procedures, right. And get everything in place beforehand.
Get it out of your head.
Exactly.
Give us a case study.
Well, we do various business plans for our clients. So we work with business owners. That's the main focus of our business. So we will do business plans and business succession plans. One that we did recently was a furniture business owner-operator, and they were looking at succession either to management or bringing in other family members. And we look at it through a 15-factor framework. So various different issues that businesses might face. So you might think about bringing family members in, remuneration, structure, financial structure, and you're looking at all these things in entirety and then coming out with really a list of critical issues to address over time and getting that business in tip-top shape to either sell or transfer.
And some of those critical issues could be preparing the next generation.
Yep.
to school them up, to surround them with mentors.
Yep.
A lot of different areas. It's not just structure and finance, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So those founder-controlled businesses, a lot of the time, the founder will be in absolute control.
Right.
And in terms of the next generation, that's disempowering, it is disenchanting, and you're also not developing their skill base so that they're in a position to actually take control of the business. So we like to think of it through the lens of intergenerational entrepreneurship. So you've got to give that next generation the opportunity to succeed and the opportunity to fail as well, because the learnings from failures are sometimes a lot bigger and better than the learnings from successes. So give them a piece of the business to work on, give them that growth market to work on and go and execute that plan. And let's see how they go.
Should the founder have their own mentor for this whole process? Because you're throwing a founder is basically an A-type personality, very confident in themselves. It's very hard for them to watch someone fail and let them deliberately fail to learn. And how do you give advice, and How do you share? That is a whole new skill set for a lot of founders.
Yeah, it is, and it can be very, very difficult. So having that sounding board, whether it is someone, a trusted advisor, a trusted mentor, as you mentioned, those roles are very important at both generations, both the founder and the next generation. Right. So the next generation should also have external counsel, so they can guide their way through the process. Otherwise, you're setting that generation up to fail.
Yep. And also the complication of discussions around the family dining table, or with a partner who is getting your opinion and the kids' opinions all coming and wanting to intervene as well.
Yep.
The relationship dynamic takes on a whole new level of complication.
Yeah, and you've kind of got to look at these things dispassionately. So the family will be intertwined in the business, but you've got to be able to separate those conversations that are personal and that are business related. And it can take time.
That's easier said than done, isn't it?
It is, and it can take time to build those build those firewalls.
Yep.
I guess. But to have long-standing business and family success is difficult. We know, even putting the business piece aside, it's difficult to have family success. But you complicate that family relationship with business. So you've got to have defined conversations as to what the expectations are, what the roles are, and what the future looks like. You've got to bring that next generation in and give them clear expectations as to how they can impact the business and how they can grow their own skill set as well.
So the family decision might be a sale event, succession. Adult kids don't want to come through to the business, so you exit. How do you set up the structure following an exit?
Yeah, so you've really got to be looking at it well before that exit point. So in reality, business owners will accumulate wealth through their 30s and 40s, well before an exit point. And it's at that point that you should be thinking about trust, company structures and the like. Then when you get to that exit point, it's really takes a lot of planning to get the superannuation contributions right, small business, CGT, concessions. It takes a lot of forward planning, and you've got to get that structure set up before you've got that sale point.
Right. Okay. Give us a case study on that intergenerational estate planning.
Yeah. So in the same way that we do business planning for our business owner clients, we'll also do estate planning as well. So you've got to go through the different issues, the family dynamics, and you've got to come up with a structure that affords asset protection and tax effectiveness for that next generation with a level of control. Now, you don't want to rule from the grave, but you want to set up a structure where there's checks and balances in terms of conduct, checks and balances in terms of how things are managed financially. But you've also got to give the flexibility for that next generation and their families to kind of go and do their own things. So it's a mix of tax, economic, and asset protection.
Right.
You got to think of it,
and throw in a big dose of emotion as well.
Yeah, and again, you've got to look at it dispassionately. You've got to take the emotion out of it, and you've got to push and prod as to what the issues are now, so that you deal with them now rather than down the track.
And be completely open about it.
Yeah.
Because, see, a lot of people see the estate planning piece as a way of maintaining relevance and power in the family.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So, and that often leads to a whole lot of dysfunction after you pass away.
Yeah, and we've seen some really interesting examples as to how particular people want to be in terms of estate directions, and you fast forward 5 or 10 years down the track and things just don't work. Capital is stuck in a structure where no one can manage it properly, and you've got different vested interests, and you've got multiple parties squabbling over one asset, whether it's a business or property or share portfolio. you got to think about how you can clinically separate those assets so that each party or family of that next generation can manage their own finances independently.
Yep. All right, we've got some questions that have come in for you. Alva says, what's a family charter versus a family constitution or protocol and a family employment policy? Are these interchangeable and legal and or necessary?
Yeah, so the main difference between a charter and a constitution is a charter is really the set of intentions, the set of values, the set of principles that guide that family and that family business. The constitution is how it might work practically. So the constitution will be a lot more technical than the charter. Now, neither of them are legally required. You can go and run your business and run your family which way you want. But it is important having both documents there so that the next generation has a sense of what the history was, what the principles and values are of that family, in the same way that you might have a will, which is your binding document, and then you might have a statement of wishes, which is your guiding document as to your intentions, as to how things operate.
Okay. Another question, what's more beneficial when it comes to wealth and tax implications, ownership or management transfer of the business?
Yeah, it's going to be very particular to the circumstances of that business owner. So you've got to be looking at things like capital gains positions, Division 7A, loan accounts, and you've also got to be looking at what that structure is that holds the business. So are you better off selling that business and incurring that capital gain now? Or are you better off transferring the management of that business and then you continue to have your stream of dividends paid or consulting fees, things like that. So it's going to be very much horses for courses.
Another one, is there anything relevant to know about the idea of starting a business with your eldest son, for example, in relation to succession of wealth and tax implications?
Set the expectations very early and set we spoke about a charter just before. Think about what you're trying to achieve. Think about what success looks like, and think about defining the roles of the parent and that son. You've got to be very clear as to who is doing what, who is responsible for what, and you've got to be putting in place these management. Essentially, it's a management structure. You've got to set that tone very early, otherwise you can quickly get into some murky territory, and that builds resentment between the two generations.
Yep.
One might think they're not doing their job because you haven't actually defined what it is that each party is actually doing.
Yep. And also if you've got other siblings outside of the business, how does that operate as well? It's fascinating. Tristan Bowman from Cameron Harrison, thanks very much for joining us.